Mr. President.
The senator from Maryland.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First, I'd like to thank the gentleman from Connecticut, Senator Blumenthal, for his words really on what the middle class is facing and his particular advocacy in behalf of women. It's well known and really much appreciated. Mr. President, I come to the floor today to really talk about middle-class people who are trying to go by the rules. But before I do, on this auspicious day, September 11th, 2014, I would like to pay my respects once again and express my heartfelt sympathy to the families of people who died on September 11th throughout this country, at the World Trade Center, at the Pentagon, in Pennsylvania, to the wonderful first responders who risked their lives and they themselves perished, to those who were wounded or sick and bear the permanent burden of their response to that awful tragedy, and to the families of the loved ones who live with it every single day, that have that absent chair at Christmas or Thanksgiving or Hanukkah, or whatever is your faith holiday, where families gather and remember. So the nation cannot forget what happened that day, and it cannot forget why it happened, and we cannot forget the people who were there and just paid this terrible, terrible price for terrorism. So I wanted to express my sympathy, my condolence, and to say that way we want to honor them is to make sure that we don't have another terrorist attack in the United States, but really what they were doing that day to believe in America. And that brings me to what I wanted to talk about today. Yes, you know, people talk about when we're out on our break, we're on vacation, but I've been moving around Maryland, and one of the things that I see and hear, and was so clear, is that number one, the middle class is worried whether it's going to stay middle class. Those who want to be middle class worry, is there going to be an opportunity ladder for them to achieve middle class status, where they can earn a decent living, raise a family, and make a contribution to their community. And they're repeatedly told, if you work hard and go by the rules, you'll do okay. They're becoming increasingly skeptical of that because they feel that the very rules of government work against them, and the very climate of government stops any change to be able to help them. They feel that we are not only they either feel that we're irrelevant or we're working against them. And that's why they say all we want is for America to be America again, where if you work hard, go by the rules, you can have a pretty good life and make a pretty good contribution to this great country of ours. So when they talk about these issues, if you talk to the old-timers, particularly those who are facing families in long-term care, they worry about the very cruel rules of government that tell them to spend down their life savings until they're eligible for Medicaid. That if you worked hard and you saved, you're actually penalized for that. Except legislation I passed 25 years ago, that if they had gone and squandered their money, they would be better off and more eligible. Then there are the young people who want to be able to go to school where they can make something of themselves and make America a better place to live. I held student roundtables along with my colleague, Senator Cardin. People talked to us, young people talked to us about the careers they wanted. At Bowie State, 4 of the young people who were part of the roundtable want to go into nursing, both men as well as women. They wanted to think I could help people. And so we have a nursing shortage in this country, and yet the very obstacles to them being afforded to pay for their education will prohibit it. Why is it that education is so expensive in this country when you look at tuition, books, fees? And then what is it that we do? First of all, we make sure that the Pell Grants aren't year-long. you can only go 2 semesters, but if you want to go during the summer to ace that class that you have to do for compliance purposes, for graduation, or that specially hard class, you only want to take 1 class a semester, your government won't help you finish sooner or finish better. We won't help you. We can give tax break earmarks, but we can't give tax breaks or help there. And then, when they look at their student debt and the interest rate that's carried, they ask me, Senator Mikulski, why is it that you can refinance a yacht, but I can't refinance my student loan? And I say, well, you know, we're stuck on the motion to proceed, and we were 2 votes short of the filibuster, but then we'll go backward if we then do this. They don't want to hear this parliamentary wonky stuff. They don't want to hear it. What they want to hear is we believe in them, and we need them, and we want them, and we're going to help them for what they believe we're going to help them achieve to be able to get a student loan. But underneath it all is that work should be worth it, and work should be rewarded. And that brings me then to paycheck fairness. One of the other rules that they feel against them is that the rules are rigged against you if you want to fight for equal pay for equal work. If you want to fight for equal pay for equal work, you can be retaliated against, you can be humiliated, you can be harassed, you can be fired simply because you're asking the person standing next to you at the water cooler or the computer printout machine, how much do you make? That simple question, how much can you make, can trigger a whole retaliatory effort against you. That's the rules being rigged against you. All it is, you want to know what kind of dough the next person is making. So this is why we once again are bringing up the Paycheck Fairness Act. Now, the Paycheck Fairness Act is to fulfill and close the loopholes that came about in the original Civil Rights Act of equal pay for equal work. We've been at this for 50 years. And when this fight started under Lyndon Johnson, women made almost 50 cents for every dollar we make. And after 50 years, gee, we're up to 77 cents for every dollar. And for Latino women, African-American women, other women of color, it's even worse. Now, people might say, well, Senator Barr, didn't you fix this when you did the Lilly Ledbetter bill? Well, Lilly Ledbetter bill that we did pass restored the law to where it was before the Supreme Court decision. This updates and strengthens it. What it does is it deals with this whole issue of retaliation. The Lilly Ledbetter bill did not address employers who are currently able to legally retaliate against workers who share salary information. This legislation stops employers from being able to sue or punish workers for comparing wages. It also helps restore congressional intent, which is to change how discrimination courses are litigated, and it makes sure that employers who claim that differences in pay are based on something other than sex are dealt with. This legislation limits employers' ability to exploit this loophole by requiring that this defense can only be used when it's related to job performance and is necessary for business. This closes the loopholes. This creates a fair playing field simply to know what the next person earns and to be able to work and to negotiate to equal pay for equal work. Paycheck Fairness Act would have helped Lilly from suing in the first place. This bill puts incentives into the legislation that causes employers to think that paying women less is a cost of doing business. This bill closes the loophole in the law which allows pay discrimination to occur in the first place, and it gets rid of the secrecy that makes it harder to uncover pay differences. Why should pay be such a secret unless you're ashamed to say what it is? Why would you want to keep it a secret? Maybe it's because you don't want to brag that you pay the men more than the women. Maybe you're too ashamed. And maybe you think it'll land you with an EEO lawsuit. We want to end the secrecy at the job place where you know what the next person next to you have a right to ask. Mr. President, I've heard from women all over America, and I've heard from men who work so hard, particularly for their daughters, men who have jobs that they hate so that their girls could go to school and have the jobs that they love. Men want equal pay for equal work. They want it for their spouses, they want it for their widowed mother, and they want it for their daughter. And when we listen to the cases, Donna Smith in Maryland's Eastern Shore worked as a retail clerk. She was told not to discuss her pay, but when she found out she was being paid less than a male clerk and was doing the exact same job, she filed an EEO complaint, and what did happen? While she fought for her pay, they were fighting her in the act of agitation and humiliation. Latoya Weaver came to a hearing that I had, a single parent for 3 children, working in guest services at a hotel. She found out that her pay of $8 an hour was $2 less than the males doing the same job. $2 when you're bare minimum makes a pretty big difference. She filed an EEOC lawsuit, although she only received compensatory damage for her discrimination. The company's policy against discussion pay means that it could happen in the first place. Mr. President, I could give example after example. I've been talking about this for a number of years. It's time, in the Senate, after all was said and done, more gets said than gets done. But this time, in the next 72 hours, we could actually vote to move the bill to the floor, to continue the debate and discussion, and actually right the wrongs of equal pay for equal work. This is why the American women want a fair shot. All they want to do is be paid exactly the same as equal pay as their male counterparts. So, Mr. President, knowing of your own steadfast advocacy for the middle class in this country and an opportunity ladder in this country, we've got to stop to make sure that the rules that government creates does not rig the game against people who are working hard and trying to play by the rules. The rules should work for the people and not for the government or for those who want to hold down their wages or their opportunity. Mr. President, I look forward to working with my colleagues to see if there are amendments, whatever we could do to move this process forward. I would love a unanimous vote out of the United States Senate to have paycheck fairness finally in our law books and in women's checkbooks. Mr. President, I yield the floor.